of today's talk is You've Got Me Hypnotized, Awakening to This Beautiful Spirit That I Am. And I know that when CSL chose this title for today, they took a lot of inspiration from Ernest Holmes that actually references hypnotism 6 times in his Science of Mind writing, but it's not in a very, very favorable light. He talks about hypnotism as the race consciousness of the world that has taken over us and convinced us to be someone or something that we are not. And he speaks about practitioners as not there to hypnotize the subject into believing they are well, but rather there to see the truth of who they are, that they truly, welcome, that they truly, truly are that perfect wholeness of the divine. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the history of hypnotism, and we're going to turn some of this upside down on its head, contrary to the way in which I set it up in the beginning. Both paths are true. And when we know that there is only one life, one mind, one truth with a capital T, then we have to take a look at everything and say, where is the nugget in this? And so I'm going to start out with a little story about hypnotism. And there was this little boy, and his name was Michael. His name was Michael Johnson, and he hated math. He was terrible at math. And it was ready for him to go into the 2nd grade, and he was getting poor grades in math, and he was not doing his homework, and his parents were beside themselves. They had hired a tutor. That didn't help. They enrolled him in hypnotism so he can be hypnotized to like and love math. And a friend of the family also suggested that he maybe be put in Catholic school with the nuns because they're stricter and a higher level of education. So sure enough, he started 2nd grade, and he was going on to his hypnosis sessions. And every day after school, he would rush up to his room with his books, and he just started doing his math homework. And his books were all over his desk, and they were under his desk, and he would lay asleep in bed and wake up, and he'd grab his math book first thing, and they thought, wow, this is really working out. And so at the end of the first semester, he comes home, and he places his report card on the kitchen counter, and he goes up to his room to study his math. And the mom and dad go up to his room, and they say, this is awesome. We opened it when you went to your room. You got all A's. And he goes, uh-huh. They go, how did you do it? Was it the hypnosis? I know it was all the hypnosis. And he goes, nope. And so dad says, well, how did you do it? He says, well, when I saw that big guy up there nailed to the plus sign, I knew those old women meant business. And I know, Sharon, you don't necessarily love starting with a joke. So I had to disguise it. So I think Ernest Holmes would have probably liked that because he really didn't believe in hypnosis. But in the history of New Thought, I want to take you back to the 1750s in Austria. And there was a man who was an astronomer by the name of Franz Mesmer. And he thought he discovered this technique where he would have people with some kind of ailment. He had a woman that was prone to hysterics, all different kinds of ailments, drink a liquid that had iron in it. And then he had these contraptions that would magnetize the iron from within the person. And he would speak to them, he would talk to them through this process, and they would experience a healing. And this came to be known as mesmerism. I have read someplace that at one time he had forgotten his liquid and he didn't know what to do. And so he couldn't really set up the magnetizing machines. So what he did is he went through the speaking process and what came to be known as the hypnotic process. It's just a word that refers to a waking sleep state, and realized that he was having the same kinds of effects. And so groups started to gather. He had quite a following. He was invited to Louis XIV's palace in Paris. And at one point, people started to think that these are shenanigans. And so there were hearings in Vienna. He was in some ways discredited. He continued, though, to write up until the end of his life in the 1820s. And he continued to have a following of very loyal clients who swore by this activity. And so in hindsight, we can look at this and we can say, well, maybe this is the placebo effect. But what is the placebo effect other than knowing your wholeness and truth, and whether it is because you took a pill that isn't what they said it is, or you went through his contraptions, or whatever it is, you came to be connected in the right alignment with the truth of who you are, and that is where wholeness is revealed. In fact, in practitioner school, and you'll remember this, we were taught there is no healing. There is only wholeness to be revealed. And that's true. That's true. We were taught that. So in the 1820s, back to the United States, there were several followers of Mesmer that came and continued to teach what he was doing. And so Phineas Parker Quimby, who was known as the father of New Thought, he was a clockmaker, discovered this teaching. And he skipped the iron part, and he skipped the contraption part. And he was the first one. The reason he's considered the father of New Thought is because he's the first one that said disease is caused by false belief. And he began to work with clients, with patients that would have healings from things that were unable to be healed by medical physicians, things that were chronic to them. And one of the people that he healed that became a follower of this teaching is, of course, Mary Baker Eddy, who's the founder of Christian Science. And through Mary Baker Eddy, we come to Emma Curtis Hopkins, who is known as the teacher of teachers. She had a falling out with Mary Baker Eddy for two reasons. One was, I think, just the theology, the belief behind all of this. And Mary Baker Eddy believed that she was like God's only antenna on earth. So if it did not come through her, it was not right. And that's where we sort of parted ways. Now, Emma Curtis Hopkins was the teacher of Ernest Holmes, and she was the teacher of the Fillmores and the Dresslers and all of the other founders of the New Thought movement. So we really do have a link back to hypnotism and to mesmerism. If you're interested in Googling this, there's a YouTube video of Ernest Holmes from the 1950s where he gives a talk about being magnetized. The same Ernest Holmes that said that the entire world is hypnotized to where it doesn't know itself anymore. And in this talk, he says, a compass needle is made up of different particles that are going every different direction within themselves without any purpose, rhyme, reason. But when it is aligned to the north, or the true north, it comes into perfect alignment. And everything points to the North Pole. How does that happen? It just knows to do that. And there's some mysteries. I mean, we do treat compass needles, and they're usually made of steel, but there's some mystery still. As this is just the quality. This is just something that happens. And he likened this scenario to our own selves, that the North Pole is spirit, it is God, it is divine mind. It is that perfection out of which it created each and everything. And we are the compass needle. And we might find ourselves at different times in our lives, in different places, with our little atoms, molecules, thoughts, whatever it is, going pew. And then our lives, because Ernest Holmes said, our lives are mirrors of what's going on within ourselves. Our lives reflect that. So he says all we have to do is align ourselves to infinite mind, to God, to spirit, to the all that is. And like the compass needle, our lives will then be in perfect flow. And if you think about it, every time we have an uneasy feeling in our gut, every time we have those little butterflies or fear of something or anxiety, it's because we're in a state of separation. And instead of thinking, I'm late, what will happen to the traffic? How will I take care of this problem? What we're really saying, oh, where are you? I feel alone. And we come into that presence, and those feelings go away. So I'd like to leave you with, among other things, the idea that when you feel that way, it's not about fixing something, getting something. It is about becoming the compass needle and putting yourself back in alignment with spirit. Now, it is true, and I actually spoke to a hypnotist before giving this talk, that many people are hypnotized by the world. The clothes that we wear, they're beautiful. They're very fashionable and trendy. There are other things in our closets we might not have picked for today. The way in which we style our hair, the cars we drive, our homes, the way in which we update our furniture. Everything, there is in our society a standard of what is right, what is wrong, what is aesthetic, what we should and shouldn't do. And so many of ourselves align ourselves with that, forgetting the truth of who we are. Many of us think, well, I am too old, I am too fat, I am too short, I can't do this anymore, nobody will hire me, I don't have enough money. That is the negative hypnosis of the world. But yet we are the perfect emanation of spirit, and it is not by coincidence that some of us are like this, like that, or like the other, or that we find ourselves, in a place in our lives, maybe not looking like a Super Bowl commercial person or whatever the heck that is, right? And so we need to embrace that. We need to know that our north compass is spirit within us. Each and every single one of us is born with a divine imprint, that matrix. That little blueprint is in each and every single one of us and in each and every single thing. And it comes from God. And it knows beyond fear. That's, pardon me, where we need to align ourselves. That is the truth of who we are. I would like to share a little story from a video that I recently saw. There is a boat out on the ocean, and there's a whale. There's a killer whale. It seems to be a juvenile, and it's pounding against the boat. And they can't tell. Oh, thank you. Bless you. Maybe I should have brought something smaller. It was a long drive, what can I tell you? So, And so they're afraid because there have been instances, and I'm sure some of you have read this, where whales have been attacking, boats, and they don't know if they want to play with them, if they want to turn them over. I mean, they're very, a whale is huge, especially a killer whale, and this behavior is common, and it happens quite a bit around Spain, and right now it's an issue, and they can't figure out what's causing it. But this whale started to emit some kind of sounds of this distress, like cries. And this was a marine investigation kind of boat. It had divers on it. They were searching for something. So the divers decided to go into the water. And they went into the water, and the whale took off, and they followed it. This was a juvenile whale. A little bit further away into the depths was its mother, who was significantly larger. And she was tangled up in a fisherman's net completely. Could not come up for air, could not move. That was anchored to the floor of the sea. And so that's what the whale was trying to tell them. And so it took a little while to cut her loose, because she was completely engulfed in this. And of course, they had to be careful, because she could just move around and whack somebody that were history, right? And when she was loose, she took her fin around one of the divers, and she and the juvenile whale swam away. Now, if you ever doubt that each living thing has that divine matrix in it, that it knows, it trusts. Have humans killed whales? Absolutely. Have whales killed humans? Yes. But that's not our natural state. And here, in the state of panic, this whale instinctively knew on some level that if I can communicate to those people, they'll get it and they'll come and see what's wrong. Okay? So is there a greater power in each and every single one of us that is that North Pole that draws us to itself at times of trouble? Yes. Yes, there absolutely is. And that's what we have to remember. That is the truth of who each and every single one of us is. And so now I invite you to think of hypnosis not as a form of mind control or something that makes people hang from the ceiling. Hypnotists have said to me in my research that they look for subjects that are hypnotizable because the person has to want to do what you're going to ask them to do. And when they pass on someone, it's because they know that that person wants to do what they want to do, not what the hypnotist wants to do. And so whether we come to truth because we were led to it through the process of maybe even hypnosis. Let's take a look a little bit of hypnosis. First of all, you go into this trance, right? Sleepy. Okay, meditation. You go into the receptive state. Then there's the suggestion, whether from the outside, where maybe you're listening to an audio meditation, maybe it's from an affirmation. But that seed soil plant, it's planted into that quiet, still space of your soul. And then you trust and believe that it will be revealed. And the same process needs to be undone when the seed soil plant process is one of material things, one of not good enoughness, one that doesn't have the principle of unity and love back of it, one that has not good enoughness back of it. Then we have to go into that stillness and uproot it, remove it, and free ourselves from that. Just like the whale was freed from the netting, and just like the haywire compass needle knew to point itself north. So I would like to close, if I may, by taking you into a brief guided meditation. We won't call it hypnosis because I don't do hypnosis. And if you wanted to write some of your findings or ahas down on your phone on a piece of paper, that's okay. If not, just go ahead and remember them. But what I would like for you to do, and I'm sure many of you have seen a photograph of a half sphere, like the edge of the earth with a silhouette on it, looking off into bright, bright, white, yellow sky. And I want you to pretend that you are that person. I want you to move into the silhouette of that being and come into stillness, looking into the light. The light is white, bright white in the middle, moving into pale yellows and oranges. And it resonates in your heart center. You start to feel your heart beating, and from your heart, the same light starts to move forward towards the greater light. And you are realizing that you are made out of the same stuff, stardust, that you might be the drop of water in the sea, but you are the same. And in that stillness, you see your own light grow and grow and merge with the wholeness of that universal light. And you hear a gentle voice inside your head, inside your heart, in your soul, your mind, wherever the vibration of the knowingness that speaks onto you makes itself known. And it says, welcome, welcome, beloved. And you come to know that you are in the presence. And if there's any gap anymore between your inner light and the wholeness of the light, it is no longer. You are tethered. You are attached. And you glow and vibrate in sync. And a voice says, tell me, how can I help you become free of whatever dims your true nature and light? Tell me, I am here to support you. Be the I am that you are. And you sit a moment with these thoughts to see what comes to you. You might jot it down. You might commit it to your mind. And you hear, you are always welcome. And I am always here to help you be the highest and best divine creation that I made you to be. You see, your individuation expands God, just like God's power, truth, intelligence, and beauty expands you. It is a collaborative effort. We need each other. That's where the connection is. And I now invite you to sit with us for a moment and think to yourself, what thought, what false idea, what in me do I need to release to make more room for this light? And if that comes to you now or later, whenever it does, just release it in an explosively magnificent fireworks kind of way into that infinite light where it dissipates and is no longer. And you are free. You are free, untethered, unhypnotized, authentically, beautifully illumined you. You are beautiful and you are whole. Namaste.